Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to the Black Robe podcast. As always, I am here, Anzhane Slaughter, as your co-host with my lovely friend, Miss Carol Mitchell. How are you?
Well, we have a hot topic today, so I'm energized.
Hot topic.
Yeah.
I know, right? You guys have heard about this mandate, this vaccine mandate that's going around, right? We have one on a state level from Governor Inslee that is pointed towards major businesses that have over 100 employees. But then we're also starting to see local mandates in King County, Seattle specifically. So let's dive a little bit into that. Carol, you want to start by telling the people a little bit about the statewide, what is Inslee doing and what's he calling it again?
Girl, I'm not one to gossip.
We ain't gossiping, we spreading facts, okay?
We spreading facts like some folks are spreading COVID.
Oh my gosh.
Because the proclamation, the governor's proclamation, he calls it Washington ready. And I'm calling it Washington not ready.
We're not ready. She wasn't ready.
Are not ready. Let me tell you why we're not ready. Number one, a friend of mine went into the grocery store the other night.
Oh my God. What'd she see at the grocery store?
A credible messenger reported to me that he saw a man with a pair of men's underwear over his face, wearing it like a mask.
Oh no. What neighborhood was he in? Did we know the location geographically so I can stay away from that grocery store?
You know, Spanaway is the center of the universe in Pierce County. If it ain't happening in Spanaway, it ain't happening nowhere.
Leave it up to Spanaway. Well, yeah, I would say based on that, I mean, we certainly aren't ready. And it's okay. It's more than just people wearing boxer briefs on their face as masks.
Wait, I got another one. And then in the same store, woman's wearing a sweatshirt that says "Spread the plague."
Oh my gosh. Okay, so we just gonna shut this store down. See what happens with the unincorporated areas.
I had a very personal conversation with somebody that I have known for years and love, who just for philosophical reasons, even though she is a state worker, has decided not to get the vaccine. And I said, well, what's going to happen? The governor says you only have until October 18th to get fully vaccinated, or you may lose your job. And then I see on Twitter, 380 something Washington State Patrol officers have all asked for a religious exemption. And you know me, I had to jump into that.
Yeah.
I said people have made fear, misinformation, and politics a religion now. And they're filing for their exemptions based on the religion of fear, misinformation, and politics. Some of these folks have not, don't even practice anything that
don't even close their eyes while they're praying. They don't even.
It doesn't even look remotely like a religion. It's a philosophical belief, and we've done away with that. That's not, Inslee is not taking that. And so now we have this whole apparatus where employers have to spend time dealing with these exemptions to the vaccine. They have to spend time. I got mine in the mail, email today that says you need to produce proof that you are fully vaccinated, or do your attestation or something, you know, meet with HR so they can see your documents. And I'm not even employed. I'm on the board of trustees for one of the colleges. Even the board of trustees have to, you know, meet these mandates in order to continue to come on campus. New students have to be fully vaccinated to come on campus. So it's a whole apparatus that's supposed to get us ready, and we are not ready.
We ain't ready. But you know what? People, especially in this country, right? are frivolous, and people will do whatever it takes. Loopholes is my point. People look for the gray areas and the loopholes and the ways around enforcement and accountability. And so you're right, with this religious exemption, there's nothing really that our state, due to the Constitution of this country, can really say or do about it, right? But what we're seeing on the local levels are these mandates to enter the indoor and the outdoor activities, right? So we're looking at Seahawks games, you got to have a mask. No, you got to be vaccinated, and you got to have proof of vaccination, or proof of a negative COVID test within 72 hours starting October 25th. Okay, so that goes for sporting events, bars, restaurants that have more than 12 people. So your little Red Robin, your little, Applebee's, you have to have your vaccination card.
Because people are dying, and according to Dr. Anthony Chen, who is the head of our Tacoma Pierce County Health Department, it's young people that seem to be the one. It's y'all. It's y'all.
Let's just, I'm gonna address this right here, okay?
Let me finish.
All right, you say your piece.
Y'all that are more frequently showing up in the hospitalizations because y'all think you're invincible. Y'all like to party. Y'all like to gather together in big crowds and, do whatever. Y'all like to pass the little, right, the little herbs and all the stuff that goes on.
I'm preparing my rebuttal.
Old people pass the herb too now. I'll admit you that. But that's where the hospitalizations are showing up in the younger crowd. So tell me why how many young people have to die before they believe they should get vaccinated? That's my question. How many people have to die? Even some of these conservative radio hosts who have been so adamantly against the vaccine, guess what? They pushing up daisies now. They dead.
Well,
it's like, what has to happen in your family or in your home or in your neighborhood before you really believe that this is a serious situation and we individually have to do whatever we can do to prevent it from spreading?
Well, I think this is just a reflection. I think the lack of young people getting vaccinated is a reflection of the lack of trust that young people have in this government and in this vaccine, right? I've heard numerous accounts of individuals that have lost family members during this pandemic due to non-COVID related reasons, but their death certificate reflects a COVID death. So that's one reason that I've heard. I've heard other people that are just, hesitant to the vaccine and just want to wait it out a little bit longer just to see what could be some, potential effects, right? Because this is still new science, new technology that's out there that we're being told to inject into ourselves, right? So it's not necessarily people that are just like, absolutely not. They just want to wait a little bit longer, right? But then when we see these mandates where you're forcing people, whether because they're going to lose their job if they don't get it, or now they can't even have a social life. Social interaction is part of mental health, especially for young people's development. So it's not something like we just like to party. It's healthy. A lot of these young people have to interact via Zoom for the last 2 years because you can't.
The old people too.
But old people like to be in their little rocking chair knitting on Zoom. Young people.
I have to object for the sake of the old people.
Okay,
our emotional well-being is, we need as much social interaction. We just don't need 500 people to get it.
Those are just the type of social events that And not all young people. You can't overgeneralize young or old. And I take my comment back for knitting. I actually love to crochet in my own time. But I'm just saying it's a lack of trust, you know, and you can't fault the young individuals and even some older individuals that are hesitant to get in the vaccine, because you know, this government historically hasn't shown the respect or care for especially young people of color to build that trust over time before they needed us to, you know, get vaccinated. I truly believe that if, you know, young lives, especially young Black lives, were, you know, respected and valued on a national level where we could see justice and we don't have situations like Manny Ellis, then, you know, there's ways that we can build trust. And so we can, you know, more people will be inclined to mandatory vaccinations. They have just more faith and more belief in it. But then also,
what about the fact though that probably 95% of those young people got vaccinated before they started school? You know, the parents who now say we don't want COVID, well, weren't your children vaccinated for school? There's no difference really than what we already do to prevent the spread of communicable diseases.
Well,
why
I think
is COVID different? I don't understand.
It's just new. It's just new. You know, it's still only a year or two old. Yes.
It's deadly and new. Well, so, you know, what we're saying is, hey, I'm willing to, this is what we're saying. I'm willing to risk my own death or my own exposure to COVID. And it has long lasting, you know, once a person recovers, long lasting impact on the respiratory system. I mean, people have chronicled their post-COVID experiences. It has a long-term effect on the body, even if you recover.
Yeah.
So there's that, you know, you're willing to risk death or long-term illness, irrevocable impact on your respiratory system and your bloodstream and your overall health. You're willing to risk that you are a carrier who could be infecting everybody else around you and not be symptomatic, right? Which to me is worse. So at least go get a test. This is what I
say. Well, there you go. And look at that. With these mandates, right? You don't have to just have the vaccination as far as Seattle and King County go. You can have a negative COVID test that was taken within the last 72 hours. So look at that. Look at how people, this is kind of going to be a push to stay on that testing, right? I mean, no one really likes to get tested. Like, I don't know, they stick it up your nose and, you know, it goes,
big long Q-tip up the nose. It's nasty.
At least nasty,
but it's monitoring.
You know, we're monitoring ourselves, I guess.
Well, women, you know, we do a lot of nasty, unpleasant things to prevent long-term disease and long-term injury and illness, right? Yeah. We do, especially women. Hey, you know, we have to put up with all kinds of unpleasant, invasive procedures in order to be well.
This is true.
So at least go get a test. You can do a drive-through. Don't even have to get out of your car. You could be talking on your phone.
Certain places are going to have more rapid testing. You know, they want people to be able to come in. Okay, we'll just rapid test at the door. I hope that people, when they do take their test, and if it comes back positive, don't, you know, quarantine, like stay home, seriously.
So really, you got Kraken tickets. And I guess if it were not for the mandate, you could take a test and see that you're positive and still take your butt up to the Kraken game. So that's why the mandates are important, because you shouldn't be there, but if you paid $500 for those front row seats, you know, at the Beyonce concert, and now all of a sudden you test positive, are you going to stay home? Yeah. If nobody else knows and nobody's checking.
Oh, if no one knows and no one's checking, well, that depends on the individual now, you know.
That's why you got to have the mandates, because somebody got to check and make sure you stay your butt home.
Yeah, they're still not foolproof. I mean, 72 hours, you could have been negative one day and positive the next day. You still have the, I don't know.
My beautiful friend was telling me, yeah, everybody in my family, everybody close came down with COVID. Thank God my friend didn't. And I said, well, could it be that you're the one infected everybody? Well, could be the one. So go get a test, because if you're not coming down with anything else and everybody else is sick, you might be the carrier.
Oh yeah, you might still have it even if you don't have no symptoms.
Or be, have the antibodies. At least you would know if you've been exposed, right?
Yeah. I just, people have a tough time with mandatory, this is a democracy. We're even seeing governors in other states, going against Biden's plan, because really this all trickled down from the federal level. So,
well, it's a representative democracy, though. We elect people to represent our individual interests, and so the collective could benefit from what our representatives are doing and deciding. It is not for our own individual personal benefit all the time.
Yeah.
The collective community is what we're talking about when we're talking about COVID. What is in the best interest of us as a community of people who have to live together, work together, shop together, go to the hospital together? People with COVID who are not vaccinated are blocking up hospitals right now. And it's largely something that could be prevented with a vaccine. You wouldn't even have to be in the hospital if you just got the vaccine. And so what that does is block up resources for people who need those services badly, who, it's a life or death situation. They can't get a ventilator because somebody that decided not to get the vaccine needs it. It just doesn't
make,
so
now our non-vaccinated people, they're going to start becoming priority too when it comes to hospitals. Is that,
I've seen that, if somebody who, is vaccinated and has, a significant need. Yeah. I don't like that. It feels wrong to me. And I have, grandchildren who are not vaccinated.
Yeah.
And so I would worry about some sort of a mandate that says, if you're not vaccinated, you can't get what you need. That doesn't feel right to me either.
Yeah.
I also don't like the fact that people may lose their livelihoods over this. The mandate that says, if you can't produce something that, gives you an exemption, you got to go get this vaccine by October 18th or October 25th, whatever it is. Or if you're a state employee, including in the education sector, you won't be working for the state anymore. So a lot of people are leaving, not a lot, but some are retiring or leaving employment in some of these public sector entities. The funny thing is, even the private sector is starting to adopt some of these rules and making proof of vaccination a condition of employment. So how you going, unless you go to, I don't know, Tupelo, Mississippi, you might be all right down there.
You're an entrepreneur and you make your own money, then you can.
And even then, if you are, if there's any human interaction, you would at least wear a mask, I would hope, right? Because you don't want to infect your customers. And then
definitely. I think this is where, we need community, we need those social norms to start forming and building, right? Once we start talking more within our circles, and I think even, tactful, maybe slight shame could work in some ways when it comes to just like educating people. I think a lot of people just have misconceptions when it comes to, the virus because of their fear, their lack of information, or, you know, maybe some lies that they've heard. Like, I don't think if we're saying that COVID is killing people, but then we're going around and we're labeling non-COVID related deaths as COVID, how are you going to get those individuals to believe that COVID is really out here killing people? People would have been dying, you know, because
well, I mean, when you've got double pneumonia, you know, you could be right. Somebody who has double pneumonia, for example, maybe historically that would have been considered pneumonia on the death certificate, and now is being called COVID because that's basically what happens. And so it is COVID, but it might have been labeled something different. But
that's a big
if you die of a
mislabel.
gunshot, if you die of a gunshot wound, no medical examiner that's worth his or her salt is going to put that down as COVID. That's not going to happen. And
but what if you die because you're diabetic and you have you know, a cut somewhere on your, you know, and you know, when diabetic people, they are getting numb in certain areas, they might not, you know, maybe an infection grew. So basically the initial reason was not COVID related, but now that they're in a hospital and there's COVID infected people.
Yes, right. Well, or because of their pre-existing conditions, they're more susceptible to getting COVID. But if COVID is at all a factor, it has to be indicated, because that's the only way you're going to be able to do contact tracing and figure out where this thing is blowing up and popping off again. Anytime COVID is indicated, you really do need to track that through the death records.
Yeah, I think there should just be some maybe more detail, right? This was you know, COVID with other, you know, related other complication. Like, it's not all COVID. We can't just lump everything together. If someone is healthy and, you know, contracts COVID, they didn't have any pre-existing conditions and then died from that, then, you know, I would understand that. But
yeah, it could say, you know, type 2 diabetes complicated by COVID or something like that to be complete. Right. But when they die in a hospital, it's the hospital and their doctor that sort of makes the call. It's not the medical examiner or the health department.
Yeah, you know, the one part about this that we haven't talked about is that business side of this, you know, because there's a whole lot of money up in this vaccine, and a whole lot of money.
I wish I had some Pfizer stock right now. Girl, I would be rich.
Isn't it like $300 or something? I need to check it again.
If you didn't get in during the research phase, which is where the hand over fist money has been made, right? Because once it was given emergency approval, the stock prices went to the roof, and then they went up again after FDA approval.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But there's a surplus of the vaccine out there, and there's this huge push to get it out, right? Who knows how many of these hospitals pre-ordered the vaccine thinking, oh yeah, everybody's gonna come and get everybody's gonna come and get the vaccination, and then now they're sitting on them.
I'm sure they did.
They have an expiration. Don't they have a shelf life?
Yes, they do. I think the original ones had to be refrigerated at a certain temperature, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, they have a shelf life, that's for sure. And I remember seeing reports where people were just giving them away for free to avoid throwing them out.
Yeah.
And one doctor gave them to his family, shooting up his family, which was not appropriate. But the bottom line is that the Washington Ready Proclamation, I mean, the intent is for us to be able to live through this horrible pandemic that we've been in now for nearly 2 years. And and the countries around the world who are doing the best at living through it are the ones that have very autocratic, almost dictator governments running things, who are saying you will get the vaccine, not the vaccine, or you will quarantine, you will wear a mask, and people do it. But because we're individualistic and we believe in doing our own thing. Nobody can tell me what to do.
Yeah.
Now we are the hotspot country that nobody wants us traveling to their countries. We're the ones, right? Where
Mexico doesn't care.
Italy and France and places like that are saying, hey, you can't come. So, the repercussions of that individuality and self-determination, that has a worldwide impact on those of us who love to travel, which I know you do. So I'm hoping right now, am I going to be, even though I'm fully vaccinated, am I going to be able to travel outside of the United States? I don't know, because we're considered a hotspot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Y'all blocking my life. Y'all blocking my travel plans.
Believe me, young people want to travel too. And even with the mandate, I think that will get more people to get vaccinated. I know that there's still a lot of hesitancy, but you can't stay at home forever. You certainly don't want to stay in the state forever. Some people, young people love to travel. And if it's going to stop them from going to school, they will get it. It's just, we also have celebrities like Nicki Minaj that, is promoting staying unvaxxed. And
when your last name is Minaj, I don't believe nothing you say is serious. Come on now.
Although she might not really influence us, there are a lot of people that look to these pop stars and celebrities, for influence.
Unfortunate. You better listen to your grandmama and forget about Nicki Minaj.
Not everyone's a sheep. People are backlashing, even Nicki, because there is the safety aspect that we got to think about. I just, want policymakers, let's all think about how what are the effects of these mandates? Because we know from history, whenever you prohibit something, people gonna find a way to do it. When it came to liquor,
prohibition on liquor, it just went underground.
It just went underground.
All the, even
weed, marijuana went to the black market, okay, and they were making billions of dollars. I just say, people are gonna find a way to get together. Let's
figure out what is the message that would get through to young people who, according to the health department, are significant contributors to new cases of COVID. What message would actually change their behavior? So think about that. You don't have to answer today, but maybe during this podcast, folks can comment on our Facebook page what they think the state of Washington needs to be saying, especially to young adults, that would save their lives. What do they need to be saying?
When your mother, if you can remember, when your mother forced you to do something, did you want to do it? That is the type of, I think, mentality that we're putting our 18 and 35-year-olds in. No one likes to be forced. This is supposed to be a land of freedom, an opportunity, right? Choice. Okay.
Yeah. So you have the freedom to live or die. You have the opportunity to live or die. You have the choice to live or die.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone does, but that free will is being taken away from them. Is the problem.
I think I agree. And I think any rule that we have that sets a limit on my freedom can be viewed that way. You can't go around and shoot your gun at people without consequences, right? The state has a whole set of rules that say,
well, now you can't even eat.
These are things
you can't even eat. You can't even shoot your gun. You can't even eat at a table.
Yeah, so we should be used to the government setting boundaries around what we can and cannot do. And some of those things are for our safety and well-being. That's my question. Okay, is this thing I hate to do? I don't want to get a needle stuck in my arm. And that second vaccine, it did a number. I don't want to do it, but is it something that overall is in the best interest of me and my family's health? And if the answer to that is yes, I always act in the best interest of my family's health.
Yeah.
Because it's not, it's a selfish thing to me for me to say, hey, I personally don't want to do it. And so, I don't, I'm not going to take a step that would protect you because I don't want to be told what to do.
Right.
But if I'm coming in contact with my mama and my brothers and my kids and my grandkids, sometimes I'll just do it for their sake, even if I disagree. It's something that is for the family's well-being. Care about other folks once in a while.
I'm all for thinking about the collective and thinking about the bigger picture, the grand scheme of things. We're so much bigger together than individually. So for one, I am vaccinated, and I know there's young people that will look at me and be like, "You vaccinated? Stay away." But I got vaccinated because I have to believe in something. I have to, we can't, it's a choice to think positive and to think negative. It's a choice to be, I believe in doing research and being a critical thinker. Absolutely. But, we can't, I don't know. I don't want to promote phobia. I don't want to promote young people distrust in the government, although there is a good reason and a very good reason to not trust this government and the things that they mandate. But, the research and the science that is backed in this vaccine, FDA has approved it. It is legit. And if you just want to be able to still socialize and go to Seahawks games and concerts, we got a lot of concerts coming up here this winter.
And travel to Ghana.
And travel, exactly. Then get your vaccination card because you won't be able to get in. You're going to be partying outside the club. Yes.
Well, this is beautiful. I'm really happy to hear the perspective of a young person in this dialogue. And frankly, I think the communications office at the governor's office maybe could benefit from a roundtable with 18 to 35-year-olds and with, make them co-designers on the messaging that needs to go out in order to persuade young people that being Washington ready is actually in their best interest.
I like it.
There we go.
There's our call to action.
Yeah. Governor Inslee. All these young
Michelle
people
Davis, let's have a round table. Let's do it. All right. That's it for today's show, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in and watching. We will look out for your comments and respond back when you guys message us. Until next time.
And be well. And don't be wearing no men's underwear over your head like a face mask, okay? If you need a face mask, call me.
All right. See you guys.
Bye.